Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's tutorial is on this pencil dress with side ruffles and a stylish neckline. No matter your level of experience, I'll be taking you through each step you need to recreate this for yourself. Immediately I saw this dress coupled with the color being my favorite, I just knew I had to recreate this. This channel is all about sewing and fashion. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, make sure to hit on that subscribe button and also turn on your post notifications so you get notified whenever I post a new tutorial. With that being said, let's dive right into this. This is the material I'll be using to recreate this dress. This is a crepe material, and as you can see here, it has medium stretch. It's not as stretchy as the one in the picture that we are recreating. So this was exactly the amount of stretch I needed, so I went for it. And for the yards I used 3.5 yards to make this dress. I already have my pattern paper here on fold, and it's on fold because we are making a one shoulder dress, so make sure to put your pattern paper on fold. What I have here is 18 inches, and that is the measurement of my shoulder to my waistline. So I'll be using the lower part of the paper as my waistline and the upper part of the paper as my shoulder line. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my body measurement, starting with the bust point. My shoulder to my bust point is 11.5 inches, so I'm just going to mark this. I'll be marking it on both sides. My shoulder to under bust is 15.5. Now I'm going to rule a straight line across each of these points. I'll just be ruling a straight line at the bottom here, just so I'll label my waistline. Now this is my bust point, the under bust point, and the waistline. This will be the center front, and this is going to be serving as the side front. On the shoulder line from the center front, I'll be marking my neck width measurement, which is 3 inches. This is a standard measurement. Also on the shoulder line, I'm going to mark half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8.5 inch. Now from that point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope, and I'm going to connect it into the neckline. Usually I would complete the neckline, but we are making a one shoulder dress, so there's totally no need for that. The next measurement we'll be marking will be the chest line, and if you follow me on here, you already know that the formula for getting the chest line is the round bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. I have 8.25. Make sure that you are marking that from your shoulder slope. Now I'm going to connect this into a straight line. I'll just label this the chest line with CL. Now to connect this with a straight line into the shoulder slope to get our armhole curve, I'm also going to mark half of my shoulder measurement on this chest line here, and I'm going to connect that with a straight line into my shoulder slope. I'll divide what I have from the shoulder slope to the chest line by 2. Then coming from that point by 0.5 inch. On the chest line, I'll be marking quarter of my bust measurement, which is 10. Now I'm going to connect what I have on the chest line to this midpoint and back into the shoulder slope using my curve. I won't be adding any dots to this pattern paper because my fabric is quite stretchy, and looking at the picture we are recreating, there is no dots. Okay, on my chest line I already marked quarter of my bust measurement. I'll just be adding 1 inch stitching allowance. I'll be marking the same thing on my bust point. Then coming to the waistline, I'll mark quarter of my waist measurement there, and then I'll add 1 inch stitching allowance. I'll connect these together using my curve. I'm done drafting the pattern. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. Please watch to see how I'm doing this to know exactly how to go about yours. Also, I'll be using this pattern paper to cut out both the front and the back of this dress. I'll be opening this up, and you can see what we have here. This is our full front bodice. Now I'll be labeling this part the right and this other side the left, so I can decide where I want my one shoulder to be, and I decided that it's what's going to be on the right. The first thing I'm going to do is to come in from this neckline here, this 3 inch mark by 1 inch, and then from the side I'm going to come in by 1.25 inch. Using my curve, I'm going to connect this into the armhole. Now you will notice that I'm not connecting it directly to the armhole down there. I'm just bringing it to somewhere around here because I don't want my bust to show by the side when I put this on. So this is what you might want to do if you don't want that to happen to you. Now the next thing I'm going to do, this part serving as the center of this pattern, I'm going to come down by about 8 inches. Now I'm going to connect this with a curve into this point here. Then using my curve, I'm just going to complete it into the armhole, making sure that this doesn't go below the armhole because you don't want your bust to be coming out at one side. Okay, just make sure you take note of this. Now after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to sketch that design we have on the neckline. I'll be doing this using my pencil. This is just like an oval curve, so I'm just going to use my pencil to sketch this until I'm satisfied. The reason why I'm using pencil is because I can easily erase it and correct it. You will also notice that I'm stopping a few inches directly under the chest line because I don't want my bust to show too much. So when I'm satisfied with the curve I have here, I'm going to use my marker to align that. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. I'll be trimming down this side a little more. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out on my fabric. I already have my pattern paper pinned down to my fabric here, and I have it on fold because I'll be using the main fabric also as lining. Now to this under part here, I'll be adding ½ stitching allowance. I won't be adding any stitching allowance to the side because we already did that on the pattern paper. I'll be adding ½ inch to the neckline, ½ inch to the shoulder. Then I'll be tracing out this curve I have inside this place, and to the armhole I will not be adding any stitching allowance. Done with the front piece. Now I'm just going to pin this together and keep it aside. Bringing in our pattern paper, I'll be using this to cut the back. So the first thing I'll be doing is to cut this into two, following this center line here. For the back, this is going to be the left and this is going to be the right. This is because it is meant to be the exact opposite of what the front is. Okay, so just make sure you do that. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out on my fabric. I already pinned down my pattern paper to my fabric, and I also made sure that my fabric is on fold because I'll be using the main fabric to cut out the lining. And I've added the zipper allowance, which is 1.25 inch, as you can see here. Now the next thing I'm going to do is shaping the zipper. At this waistline here, I'm going to come in by 0.5 inch, and I'm going to be connecting that upward like this. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out just like this. To the neckline, I'll be adding ½ inch stitching allowance. To the shoulder, I'll also add ½ inch. Then to this armhole here, just note that the armhole for the back is meant to be a little bit more covered than the front armhole. I'm just going to add a few inch, about 0.25. You can see how I did that. Then I'm just going to cut this out. I'll be trimming off the sides, and I'm going to cut out the down part, making sure to add 0.5 inch stitching allowance. I'll be doing the same thing to this side here. I already added my zipper allowance. I'm going to come in from the waistline by 0.5 inch, connect it upward, and starting down here, I'm going to add ½ inch to the down part. I'll cut out the zipper. I'll add ½ inch to this upper part, which is the neckline. Then I'm going to cut out the sides. Now we are done with this, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the down part of my dress. To cut out the down part of our dress, I already went ahead to put my fabric on fold. I have the front and the back here, and on the back I marked 1.5 inch as my zipper allowance and ruled a straight line across. Then I placed the front on it, on the zipper allowance. Now the first thing I'm going to do is to rule a straight line on the top of this place to serve as my starting line. Now this starting line here will be serving as the waistline from where I'll be taking other measurements. I'm going to place my tape there, and the first measurement I'll be taking will be my waist to hip line, which is 8 inches. I'm going to mark this on both sides. My waist to knee is about 23 inches. Now I'm going to connect these points with a straight line. The last point I'll be marking is going to be the length of this down part, which is 48 inches, but I'll be adding 1 inch for hemming allowance, so I'm going to mark this at 49 inches. Then I'm going to rule a straight line across. To mark our round body measurements, make sure you're taking your measurements from after the zipper allowance. So I'm just going to place my tape there. I'm going to mark quarter of my waist measurement, which is 8. I'll add 1 inch for stitching allowance. I will not be using any darts on this. Then on the hip line, I'm going to mark quarter of my hip measurement, which is 11.75. I'll add 1 inch for stitching allowance, which is exactly what I have there. On the knee line, I'm going to remove 1.5 inch from what I have on the hip line. After doing that, what I have is 10.25. Then I'm going to mark that there and add 1 inch stitching allowance. You saw how my dress was. If you want it more tight at the knee, you make sure that you remove about 2 inches or 2.5, depending on what is comfortable for you. And I'll be marking exactly the same thing I have on the knee line on the length of my dress. Now I'm going to go ahead and connect all these points together. Make sure you watch how I'm doing this to know exactly how to go about yours. To give a better fitting for the front part, I'm going to come down from this point here by ½ inch and connect it into the waistline. For the back shaping, I'm going to come in after the zipper allowance by 0.5 inch. This is going to help to give a better fitting. Then from this other side, I'm going to mark ½ inch and I'm going to be connecting this into the hip line like this, and also this other side into the hip line just like this. Now this right here is going to be our new zipper allowance. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out just like you see me doing. I'll be cutting out the center back following this new zipper line I drew here. Now make sure that when you are cutting the front waistline, it's just the front you are cutting and not the back too, because you know the waistlines are now different. Now I'm going to go ahead and trim out the back waistline also. Also make sure to notch the zipper allowance at the back. Now we are done with this, let's proceed to joining this together. Starting with the upper part, I'm going to be pinning down the sides that I'm going to be stitching down. Now for this side here, I'll be stitching down this upper part, the side, and then the zipper using about 0.25 inch. I won't be stitching down this down part. I'll be using it to turn everything over. For this other side, I'll also pin down the parts that I'll be stitching down. I'll be stitching down the neckline, the side, the armhole, and then the zipper using about 0.25 inch. I won't be stitching down this down part and I won't be stitching down the shoulder. Now bringing in the front piece, I'm going to pin this down. I'll be stitching this down at the neckline. I'll be stitching this down at the armhole. I'll be stitching it down at the sides using 0.25 inch. I won't be stitching down the shoulder and I won't be stitching down this down part. Also, I won't be stitching down this opening here. After stitching this down, this is what I have here. Also make sure that you make a notch around this armhole and around this neckline. This is going to prevent gaping in front and it's going to help this to lay flat after ironing it. The next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out a facing for this opening I have here. So what I'm just going to do is to bring in this fabric and I'll be tracing this out on the fabric. Now I'm going to cut this out using about 1.25 inch. Then I'll also cut out what I have inside, following the line that I traced out. The next thing I'm going to do now is to turn this to the front, and then I'll be placing the facing directly on this opening like this. I'll go ahead and pin it down around, and I'll be making a stitch using 0.25 inch. After making the stitch, you can see what I have here. The next thing I'm going to do is to notch around this stitch. This is going to make it easier for me to turn this to the wrong side to finish it. Now I'm going to turn this to the wrong side. I'm just going to turn it to the back so you can see exactly what we are doing here. Now what I'm going to do to finish this is just to fold it and fold it again, and then I'm going to go ahead and pin this down all the way around. And I'll be stitching this down to secure it in place. After doing that, you can see what I have here. You can see how neat the opening is. This is how to go about creating this unique style at the neckline. For the back piece, I've already gone ahead to turn it to the right side and I've given it a really good press. Also, do not forget to notch around your stitch so it will be easier for you to iron this down. Now let's join this together with the down piece of this dress. Starting with the front part of the dress, what I'm going to do is to get the midpoint of the down part and notch it. and also notch the midpoint of the upper part. I'm going to place these right sides facing each other, making sure that the notches are together, and I'm going to go ahead and pin this down. Now I'll go to my machine and stitch this down using 1/2 inch stitching allowance. For the back piece, I'll be doing the same thing. I'm going to notch the midpoint of the down part. But before I notch the midpoint of the upper part, the first thing I'm going to do is to come up at this center by 0.5 inch. Then I'm going to be connecting it to the side. Note that you're connecting this to the side just like this, because you still want the front and the back upper piece to be the same length at the side. Okay, so I'll be doing this for both sides, and I'm going to go ahead and trim it out along these lines I just drew. If you notice here, it's kind of curved in towards the middle. This is what you want to achieve. It is going to help to give a better fitting because we are joining this to a skirt. Now I'm going to go ahead and notch the midpoint of this upper part. Then I'll place it right side to the down part, and I'm going to pin this down. And I'll be making a stitch using 0.5 inch stitching allowance. After joining the back piece, you can see what I have here. The next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and insert my zipper. First, I'm going to determine where I want my zipper to stop, and after doing that, I'm going to determine how long I want my slit to be. First of all, I'm going to pin this down at the waistline, and then coming to the length of the dress, I'm going to mark 20 inches to be the length of my slit. Now what I'm doing here is to insert the zipper, stop at this point. I'm going to stitch down this part, and then I'll be leaving the slit open. After inserting my zipper, you can see what I have here. Now I've already gone ahead to close up one side of the slit. I'm just going to turn this over to the wrong side to show you guys how I did that. Now you can see that we've already stitched here, so we already have like a guide. I'm just going to fold that in, and I'll be making a stitch at the edge of this place, just very close to the edge, since we are going to go ahead and overlock whatever we have left here. Now after doing that, you can see how neat my slit looks. This is what you want to achieve. Next thing I'm going to do is to bring in the front piece and place it to the back piece, right sides facing each other. I'm going to go ahead and join it at the shoulder. I'm just going to pin this down, and I'll be stitching it down using 0.5 inch stitching allowance. The next thing I'll be doing now is to pin this down at the sides. I'm going to pin it down at the waistline first, and I'm going to pin it down on the other sides. After pinning it down, I'll be taking out my body measurement on this, starting with the bust area. I'm going to divide my bust measurement by 2, and my bust measurement divided by 2 is 20. What I have here is 21, which means I have an extra of 1 inch. So I'm going to mark 1/2 inch here, and I'm going to mark 1/2 inch on the other side. On the waistline, I'll divide my waist measurement by 2. I have 16 inches, but what I have here is 17, so I have extra 1 inch. I'll be sharing 1/2 inch to both sides. So I'll mark 1/2 inch here and 1/2 inch there. Then I'll connect this into what I have on the bust point. Now I'll be doing the same thing on the waistline all the way to the length of my dress. This is how you are going to go about this. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to stitch down the upper part of this dress. So I'm going to make a stitch from the up part, and I'll be stopping at the waistline. This is because we'll be inserting our ruffles from the waistline down. After stitching it down, you can see what I have here. I stopped at the waistline. Okay, now to insert the ruffles, the first thing I'm going to do is to take the measurement of what I have from the waistline to the length. The length of the down part for my dress is 48 inches, and I added 1 extra inch for hemming allowance, so the length of my ruffles is 48 inches. Now I have this piece of fabric I've already cut out here, and you can see what I have here is about 9 inches. And for how long this is, what I did was to multiply the length of the down part of my dress by 2. Okay, what I did was to multiply 48 by 2. That was how I got the length. Now the first thing I'm going to do here is to finish off one side of this fabric, and then on this other side I will be making a loose stitch from the up part to the end of this fabric. Make sure that you are doing this on 2 pieces of fabric because we have 2 sides of this dress. After doing that, you can see what I have here. I've finished this side, and what I'll be doing now is to ruffle this loose stitch. This place I made a loose stitch. I'll be creating ruffles. This is how I like to go about creating my ruffles. It's always easier for me, unless it's a very difficult fabric, which is rare. This is how I mostly go about my ruffles. So I'm going to continue ruffling this until I get my ruffle. Make sure to take your time while doing this because you don't want to go back to your machine to create another stitch. That will be stressful. After creating the ruffles, you can see what I have here. This is how beautiful it came out. Now I'm just going to take the measurement of what I have here to be sure that it's the length of the down part of my dress. You can see that what I have here is about 48 inches. Now this is perfect for what I need to use. The next thing I'm going to do now is to finish the up part and the down part of these ruffles. I'm just going to be folding them and then I'll be finishing it off. Then I'm going to bring in my dress and I'll be inserting this ruffle into the dress just like this, making sure it's starting at the waistline. So I'm just going to place it perfectly in there. I'll be placing it in between the front and the back part of the dress, making sure that the ruffle side is the one that is facing the outer part of the dress. Now what I'm going to be doing is, I already marked out my measurements here as you can see. So what I'll be doing is just to pin this down. Okay, I'm just going to arrange it properly and I'll be pinning it down just like you see me doing until I get to the length of this dress. You can see how neat this looks after pinning it down. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to make a stitch on top of this following my line. So I'm going to stitch this down together. After stitching it down together, you can see how beautiful this came out. I've already done it to both sides of my dress, and also you can see how beautiful this came out. This is how I always go about my ruffles and it comes out really neat. I've also gone ahead to hem the down part of the dress and you can see that. We have come to the end of this tutorial. I really do hope this tutorial was helpful. Let me know in the comment section. Also, if you have questions, you can put that down in the comment section. I'll be attending to that. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and turn on your post notification. I'll see you guys in my next tutorial.